Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Delighted to welcome, I don't know if it's Jimmy, we'll say James Westbury. We've made contact once again. Good morning and welcome to you.
Oh, good morning, and it's a great day out there, isn't it?
Fantastic day, fabulous Friday, let's enjoy it. And I don't know if you've been enjoying too much of the sunshine recently. There seem to be an enormous number of meetings going on about the annual plan. Have you been involved in those, James?
Indeed. Yesterday I was in council meetings all day, from 9 o'clock till 5, so it's definitely quite a time-consuming process. It's one of the things I'm not sure a lot of people appreciate, the amount of time elected members actually put in for council-based initiatives. It is quite a time-consuming activity, particularly for people who also have a day job on the side.
As you do. And, of course, many people do, and I'm amazed how many people do put in submissions, put the time in to make their views heard. Now, would that include the Waikanae Community Board? Do you put in a submission on the annual plan?
Indeed. Like yesterday, we participated in a workshop to put forward what we believe are the priorities for the Waikanae community and some of the issues that we're facing as a community board. It was really interesting if we look at our historical rates over the last 10 years. They've typically gone up in the league of about between 6 and 4%.
Yes.
So we've had some quite substantive increases in rates over the last decade.
And many of the ratepayers in Waikanae are on fixed incomes, aren't they?
And that's a really challenging position for the Kapiti Coast. And for central government, the key question at this point in time, whether rates based on capital valuations and property valuations is the appropriate way to draw or tax individuals in their community.
What's your view on that, James?
It's a really tricky one. I don't know how to be fair and equitable as well as applying a level of rate that enables a council to operate effectively. That's the key challenge.
It certainly is, and one that I think is really going to have to be thought about because, as you say, in Waikanae, those rate rises, which can be more than the average for the district in Waikanae because of the capital values, and it means that those rates are going up, the incomes are staying largely static, and there's a sort of a dividing of the ways, which eventually means that something's got to break, and that is a worrying thing, isn't it?
It is, and Waikanae traditionally has had the highest growth in capital growth and valuations across our entire community. So those at Waikanae Beach in particular have had a significant increase in rate versus other communities around our area, say Raumati or even Otaki, for example. The council in the previous triennium took a view that, some areas of people who are more able to pay should contribute more. That's something that might need to be examined again within our community if people feel it's appropriate in terms of who should contribute the most towards rates in our community. Just because you've got high asset value doesn't necessarily mean you've got high cash flow.
Absolutely, and many people are cash flow, embarrassed on occasions, whereas they may be apparently really rich looking at the assets there, but unless you capitalise on the asset, there's no way to access that cash flow, is there? So it's
exactly
a very difficult thing, and I think just because your capital asset has gone up, it doesn't mean that the rates are any easier to pay, because it's all on paper until it happens, and many people, of course, want to stay in place. So that's an interesting thing. It's something that government needs to look at and come up with a framework with some alternative solutions, because the current solution isn't really fit for purpose. But then again, the number of working age people in the next 10 years, there's going to only be, at the moment, there's 4 working age people
for every retiree. By the time you go to another 10 years, there's probably going to be 2.
And are you talking about national figures there, James?
Indeed.
So here, the proportion of retired people is higher than the national average, about twice the national average.
It's twice the national average.
So the problem is twice as acute, isn't it?
It is. And that's probably why we have quite a vocal community with regards to any rate rise, because they're actually feeling it the hardest.
However, we do have to find some money from somewhere for assets that we find very precious. Dare I risk the guess that the Waikanae Library appeared in your submission on the annual plan?
That would be spot on. It's our key priority for Waikanae. The Waikanae Community Board, including myself, presented to councillors making a plead submission to request that our council actively facilitate a study and also a review of library services this year to identify what's actually needed for a library, and then start the process about site location and possible build and design in the next coming years.
Now, James, I think it's no secret that the money to do what you want to achieve there does not exist at the moment. Does the money exist even to do the examination of what's required? Do the study?
Well, that's one of the bids that we're putting forward to secure some money. At the moment, there's about $107,000 proposed for the review of library services across our entire portfolio, that's Otaki through to Pauparumu. Our view is that's not going to be sufficient to enable the identification of a location and possible site designs for Waikanae. So we're quite keen to see that number increase.
And what are the other priorities that your board has identified?
Some of them don't actually involve spending money, to be honest. Some of them is about the council working with our board to secure some economic revitalisation of our town centre, to make sure New Zealand Transport work with us with regard to cycleways and the state highway revocation process.
Yep. Fine.
Some of it also is about how parks and reserves and what our parks and reserves investment might look like, or can we prioritise some investment in some of our peripheral parks to be invested in Waikanae Park to ensure that it's a genuine destination.
Right. Okay. So that's something that had not occurred to me, reprioritising. Of course, that means taking away money from other areas, doesn't it?
Indeed. So some parks that might have a very low utility,
yes,
but are on the investment cycle to have their playgrounds replaced.
Right.
Well, I think there needs to be a decision. Well, do we use some of that money that's earmarked for the other site and bring that to Waikanae Park and pull it together to have something substantive and material that children and elderly can get more fully use out of, and that will draw people to our community, like in Foxton, for example, where they've had a recent park built.
Indeed, very successfully. Does this mean it has to be evidence-based? In other words, you have to come up with numbers proving the usage of the various parks rather than just anecdotal?
No, what we'd like to do is work with parks and reserves and also consult with the community about what their feelings are on the redirection of some of those investments. The preliminary discussions I've had with a number of school children down at the skate park, but also in Mahara Place, has indicated to me that they would like a destination park that's got more plentiful activities and facilities than lots of small ones that are only targeting very few individuals with regard to the age range.
I see. So it's a case of watch this space, watch this park. So we'll look forward to that. Thank you very much for joining us, James. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
That's no problem.
Excellent. James Westbury, the chair of the Waikanae Community Board.
106.3 Beach FM.